BlueNote Fan Report. Aloha! I'm Guy, the Hawaii Blues fan, and I'm your host on the show that's by a fan for the fans and about you, the fan. Yes, we're here to talk hockey. It is the NHL's North American opening night. The Rangers and the Lightning, last year's Eastern Conference Final participants, are 1-1 with about 6:32 to go in the second. Later, the Vegas Golden Knights are going to start their season against the Los Angeles Kings. The Kings have aspirations of being one of those teams. The Vegas Golden Knights are hoping that they can get under the cap. The Blues made some moves today, and they were expected moves, nothing unexpected. They originally Oh, Robert Morton is here. Hello, my friend. Hello. So a couple days ago, before on Monday by 4:00, I think it was Central Standard Time or Eastern Standard Time, they had to set their roster, their opening night roster. So before that, they waived Leivo on Sunday. He cleared waivers on Monday, and then they assigned Leivo and Neighbours to Springfield. However, neither one of them left Charleston, where they're at, doing their team building. Excuse me. And then today, they put them back on. The Blues are sitting about $1.6 million under the cap. That might change. That there's some more money that may open up there, depending on how some things are done. Right now, they have 23 men on the roster. A lot of times they can drop two guys and pick up a couple of million. Someone that they can send back down, something like that. They've got some room to work with, right? Leivo, I don't think has been added to the roster, but I know Neighbours was added to the opening day roster. I do know that. Let's see here. Yeah, so I'm not sure if either one of them was put on the, I think they're both on the opening day roster, to be honest with you. Here, yeah, so this is the new, yeah, okay. So here's the new roster: 14 forward, 7 defensemen, 2 goaltenders. So they ended up putting both Leivo and Neighbours on the opening night roster. So Akari, Barbashev, Brown, Prunovich, Kyrou, Leivo, Neighbours, O'Reilly, Saad, Shin, Tereshchenko, Thomas, Torpachenko, and Walker. Torpachenko, I think, will probably be a healthy scratch semi-healthy scratch for a few days, but he should be. We could see him very early. They've got 3 days off before they play Seattle in Seattle, and I could see maybe him being in that Seattle game. But we'll kind of see how that goes. I think having him in that Seattle game might be good. Right? Oh, Chris Lambert, have not seen you in a while. We had a great season last year. 109 points. I mean, third place, but 109 points. 109 points is a damn good season. A lot of years, 109 points wins you the division, right? Early opinions of Grice. I like Grice. I actually think Grice is an upgrade on Husso. I mean, I know a lot of people were all on Husso, but I wasn't, right? And when in December and January, Husso was fine, right? Actually, not even December, January and February, Husso was fine. But when you needed Husso in March and April, he let you down. And then in May, other than the one solid start, the rest of it just down. Oh, I know. I've seen that too. I see it and I don't. I think they have questions at goaltender, but I think, they've got, I think this, what the Avalanche proved last year is you don't need a super goaltender to win, right? This is a more of a offensive league where your best defense is a great offense, right? So that's what I think's happening. That's where I think the league is going. It looks like we got company. Hey, Lance. Oh, I thought we had him. That didn't last long. We had 9 20-goal scorers and lost one of them. So we have 8 returning 20-goal scorers. I think we can still have 8 20-goal scorers or better than that, to be honest. Early opinion on Beddington's pro. Last time I heard, he faced like 64 shots in the preseason and stopped 62. Yeah, he had a great preseason. He was sharp all preseason. Now, competition wasn't as high. I'll say that. He did face some good guys here and there, but for the most part, he was solid. He was very solid. He gave up 2 goals. That was it. I think he gave up one against Dallas and one against, or it may have been one against Chicago and one against in all fairness, Guy, you say when we needed Husso, he wasn't there. But if you think we got 109 points without him, no, okay, that's a fair point. That's a fair point, right? He did have a period, but when in March, when it counts, when it really, really counts, March and April are when baseball. A lot of baseball guys here. You can kind of translate this with baseball, right? You can sit there and go, August. That's when you got August and September. That's when it counts. Those are the 2 months. That's when it really, really counts. That was Grice. However, you can't count that game. They got there 30 minutes after. They got there late. They had plane trouble. They got there. They went straight from the plane to the arena to warm-ups, right? And then they had just a minor league team out there, and Columbus had their A team, the majority of their A team. That was a throwaway game. That really was. Somebody's here. Hey, bud, how you doing? Not 100% sure who this is. I'm guessing they're on. I'm pretty sure I know where they're at right now. I'm checking something out here real quick. Someday I'll figure things out. I'm waiting for Lance to pop back in. For me, this is, the season's just about here. And, the guys are doing their team building. They'll probably be back in St. Louis tomorrow. And now Columbus, I'll be keeping a really close eye on Columbus. Columbus is going to play 2 games before they even meet the Blues, right? They play tomorrow night, and then they play Friday night, and then they play Saturday. So with that being said, I'm kind of looking out to oh, this is Sam there. Hey, buddy. Hey, Sam. How you doing? Okay, looks like we got Lance back. Hey, Lance. How you doing, bud?
Not too bad, how are you?
Hey, not bad at all, man. Not bad at all. So I was talking about the moves the Blues made today. They ended up bringing and it was paper. The sending Neighbours and Leivo to Springfield was a paper move, right? We knew that. As soon as they, the season started today, those guys went on LTIR, what they needed to do, and now they come back. Now the Blues have got about $1.5 million, $1.6 million in cap room, but they've carrying 23 men on the roster. Could you see them maybe sending somebody down or waiving somebody to free up cap room if needed?
Nope.
You don't?
Nope. They want 23 men on that roster, especially in the first part of the season, because you never know what you're going to get in the first part of the season. And I think Doug Armstrong and Berube like having that 23-man roster there as opposed to having 22 guys.
I think a lot of last year they went with like 21.
Yeah, there was a bit there where they had 21 guys on the roster.
Yeah, I think even a couple of years we played short a guy.
Yeah, because
Right?
I think last year it was mainly due to injuries and COVID and stuff like that. I don't think
Yeah,
Armstrong and Berube prefer to do that because number one, it can shortens your bench. Number
yeah.
two, guys have to play some more minutes, and the more minutes the guys play, the more chance there are of guys getting hurt. So I'm very happy with 23. If they went to 22 for a good reason, it wouldn't bother me. But I think they're going to try to stick with 23.
Yeah, well, you do know, Brown's not on, well, no, Brown is on the opening day roster, but
Hmm.
I think he's still listed as day to day.
Yeah, he is.
I don't know if he'll be playing Saturday or not.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
I wanted to confirm something. People were giving me hell because I said that Neighbors and Levo were sent down, and then like you said, it's a paper thing. Well,
Yeah,
about a week and a half before, I do know there was some internal discussion on whether or not to start Neighbors in Springfield at the first part of the year. The Blues had not fully decided about a week and a half before, and that was my main point because I've been out of pocket a little bit, and I didn't know what was happening. People
yeah,
tore me up over it, and it wasn't false. It was just an older update. So
yeah. No, I do think that, they gave I think Neighbors had the most preseason games. I think he got 5 of them,
I think you did too.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
And so he got the most preseason games. So they gave him a strong, strong look.
yep. They
Um,
did.
and he may start on the third line, but I could see him getting up there with Kyrou and O'Reilly.
I don't think he's going to do
They
that for quite a
tried that
while.
line. They tried that line in Carolina. However, you can't really count that Carolina game. They went from the plane to the arena to the ice.
Yeah,
You know?
I don't count preseason games to begin with because when I watch a preseason game, I want to see how the young guys are doing, how much they've grown. I want to see how any veterans they've brought in, any guys they've brought in through trades or guys they've picked up off a waiver wire. That's why I watch a lot of people, or let's say like a guy like Bennington who had 3/4 of it not so good last year. I want to see how he looks, to see if he's like he was at the end of the year. But I thought Neighbors was pretty good. I do know I saw a couple games live, and I'll tell you there were some times where he got pushed off the puck pretty easy by a bigger player. I think that's something he needs to work on. Is it something he needs to work on so much where he shouldn't be in the NHL? No, but I think that's something he needs to work on a bit.
Well, he's only 20, so he's still got
Yeah,
a body to grow into,
yeah.
right?
I imagine he like when I hit 20, I grew 2 more inches. From 20 to 21, I grew 2 inches.
Yeah. So,
I'm not going to
I,
say how much weight I gained, but I grew 2 inches.
yeah, no, I can see, I can see that. I don't have I was surprised that he made the roster, to be honest,
Yeah,
but he
I
earned
was
it.
too. Yeah, I was too. He earned it. I don't have a problem with it. I think people think I have a problem with it. But
Yeah.
you and I both talked about it 4 or 5 months ago. We thought in before the preseason and before we saw him that it might be best to start him out in Springfield for the year and maybe give him some more time because I will tell you this. He would have gotten more playing time and more minutes in Springfield than he's going to get here. Is it going to kill him? No. He's going to learn under fire, and I think he's going to do well.
Yeah, I'm with you. Someone's asking about Kyrou and his weight. I think Kairou's 6 foot 210. I think 200. I could be wrong. I'm looking it
Kyrie has
up now.
beefed up a little bit. I'm glad they
He's
noticed that.
He's
Yeah,
listed at 6'1", 196. So right about
yeah,
200.
yeah. He's gained a little bit of weight. The Blues wanted
Right?
him to do that this offseason. I'm not talking 30 pounds. I think he gained like 10 pounds. But on a guy like that, around 6 foot or so,
Yeah.
10 pounds is pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. These guys aren't gaining. And when you talk about them gaining weight, they're gaining
Yeah,
muscle. They're not gaining
yeah.
fat,
No, they're not
right?
gaining fat. You don't want a player to gain fat.
Yeah, they're gaining muscle. Well, with the exception of Pat Maroon.
Well, I was also going to say Phil Kessel, but that's for another reason.
Yeah, there's some of those. Is Kyrou gonna have the same kind of year as last year? I think he'll have a better year.
I do too.
I think he'll have a better year.
You know what, guy, and I know you watched it and you noticed it like I did. His confidence grew big time last year. He was more confident in what he was doing. He didn't look over his shoulder a lot like he did in the previous years. and he's going to have just as good, you know. And another player guy that everybody's saying there's no way he can have as good of a year, and I know you agree with me. I think Tarasenko can have just as good, if not a better year.
I think Tarasenko can be the first 100-point player in a while.
Yeah, Tarasenko is this, regardless of whether he re-signs here, regardless of whether he gets traded the trade deadline, he's very happy. He's happy where he is right now.
Oh, I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. I know Jim Thomas took some heat for the question he asked him about the trade.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that wasn't the time that I mean, he asked him it after the first preseason or the first day of camp, right?
No.
Something like that.
No.
And for me, that was a question that needed to be asked at a media event or something, not the first day of camp.
Yeah,
it just didn't seem right.
If I'm Jim Thomas, I ask that question later on in the year when it's getting closer to the trade deadline. If they've heard if the Blues are talking to him about a contract, then you ask that question. Yeah, I'm with you, and Jim does a pretty good job compared to some other people.
Yeah,
and he used to be a baseball guy, so I think
he did more football, I think.
Yeah, he did football. Yeah, he did a lot of Cardinals football, Rams football. But yeah, he did a lot on that end. But I think he does a pretty good job based on his experience and knowledge of the game. I just wish, and I'm not just trying to put him out, but I just wish guys would ask better questions. You and I have talked about that.
Well, that's the thing. That's the problem, and that's something that's an issue now, is that these teams control their press access, and they use it as carrots, and I don't think that's right. I really don't.
It's not.
Right? I actually don't think that individual teams should control press access. I think the NHL should control press access.
I would agree with you on that because with my experience with the NHL and how easy, now I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's easier to get credentials through their media site like you and I have than it is to get anything done with an individual team.
Yeah. Right. And that's, it's tough. And, for me with my website being down right now and I'm not really writing, that just pushes me further back, and that's fine. I get it. Yeah. No issues. I got to reset, and that's, I'll get there.
Well, you don't have as much work as me because starting in 2017, I think a year or two before we met, I was getting 1 million to 1.5 million downloads and listens combined on my podcast. And then all of course, I started having the health problems. I've got to really work hard to get that back because it took me several years to get that.
Yeah, and I've never been there. I've never had it even close to that. So
what helped me was when I started, there was 2 other podcasts in St. Louis.
Oh yeah.
Now there's 8 or 10 of them.
Yeah, there's something like that. Yeah. And there's a couple others that are using BlueNote, and I've kind of told them I know I've had my podcast longer than them.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So, I've thrown some stuff out there. I've been.
Yeah. We were talking about people asking dumb questions. The dumbest question, and it gets asked almost every game. And it's actually 2 questions. How do you feel about the win, or how do you feel about the loss? Well, how the hell do you think they feel?
Yeah, for me, I think a question should be more about, strategy. What was the strategy? A working strategy or a strategy not working.
Yeah, it's something like, hey, Vlad, I've noticed in the last 5 games, you look like you're getting the puck on the net more, and you scored 3 goals in those games. Did you change something up, or are you just working? That's a good question.
Yeah, that's a solid question.
Yeah.
Chris says, I hope we do good in the regular season like we did last year, and this time when we get into the playoffs, please don't choke. I don't think they choked in the playoffs. I don't think
they ran into a very good team, and Guy and I's feelings about Colorado, but we will say they were a very good team.
They were.
They ran into a team like Guy and I have said, but especially Guy. They were so focused on winning the cup that year because they'd been favorites for 3 or 4 years, and the pressure was on them, and they wanted to prove everybody wrong about them, and that's what they did.
I'm looking for Chicago to beat them tomorrow night.
It's like Wendy said. I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, I think that they're gonna. They came into the season, and I've talked about this, and I know people think I'm nuts, but they came into the season last season with a chip on their shoulder, the size of St. Louis. Okay, big old chip on their shoulder, and nobody was going to knock it off.
No.
Right? The schedule was very favorable to them, right? They didn't meet some of their division rivals. You know, the last game they played a lot of their division rivals at the beginning of the season.
Yep.
And at the very end of the season, when the games didn't matter as much, they had in February when the Blues played like 6 games or 7 games, they played like 8 or 9. They played more games in that February period.
Mm-hmm.
So they had this a little bit better strategy. So they had a favorable schedule. They had a decent team. They had a good team. They had a solid team. And they got what they needed. Now, they did get some help from referees. I'm sorry, right? They got help from referees, but you know what? So did the Blues in their cup run.
Yeah, every team does through the season and through the playoffs.
I just don't think that they're going to play with that chip on their shoulder, and I just can't see them winning the division. I really don't. And I know we had the guy on yesterday who was, harping, the Blues are worse. The Blues are worse.
Talking about Josh?
Yeah, Josh. And I don't see that. I don't see that.
I don't either. You got guys on Twitter and hockey writers, not Lou Korick, but other guys like Lou that write for the NHL that are picking the Blues not to make the playoffs. I told my wife, I said, everybody's picking the Blues not to make the playoffs, but Colorado loses 30, 40 goals and 3 or 4 really good players, but everybody's still picking them to win the cup. I don't understand it.
Don't forget about the stupid suspensions the Blues got in 19. They only got 1 suspension in 19.
I thought there was 2.
I thought there was 1. I thought it was Sundqvist was suspended from Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Finals. That's the only one that I can think of. I don't think there was any other ones in that. I know at the beginning of 2019 there were a couple suspensions. Like Robert Thomas got a suspension.
Yeah,
right in the first game of the year, right? Josh back. We are a wild card team. Josh, I disagree with you, bud. I really do. But it would have made a difference. Absolutely it would. Right? And hey, Josh, welcome. And I try, if you're I don't know you're here, I try not to say your name, but I hope you don't feel like we're diming you out or anything. I know how you feel, and that's fine, bud. That really is. Josh, you're absolutely welcome to feel that way. I just have a hard time seeing it. When you say this, I think you're so wrong here. Right?
And I think that, the Avs fans, hey, I'm happy for you. As a fan base that you won a cup. It had been a while since
he's a Blues fan.
Yeah, the thing is, if you're going to tear the Blues apart for losing Perron, you've got to tear the Avalanche apart for losing some good players. I mean, they lost Kadri, who was a 100-point player.
Yeah, well, 87, but
close to. Close to 100. Yeah.
Hey, it's Ashley.
Hey, Ashley.
I think Ashley might be with us tomorrow. So now, since the season started, we're every day, 8 p.m. I used to do 9. I've dropped it back to 8. It's a little better for Ashley, a little better for me, actually. 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, except game days. We come on an hour to a half hour before the game starts. All right, and then the stream is going to run the whole game. So you just come. So when the game starts, you can either just leave it on. I mean, if you watch a game on your phone, you can't. But, you can leave it running. We can also chat. If you put things in the chat room during the game, I may post them here, right? And then you can this gives you a chance, like things during the game, we'll have an idea of what you want to talk about as the game's going along. So you could always do that. Josh is running the Bo Bryan fan club. He is the president of the Bo Bryan fan club, right? Also great to see everyone. Sorry, you baseball is baseball. I follow baseball. I followed the Cardinals, Oh, come on, Josh. Don't go there, bud. We don't need that. Ashley's going to be here tomorrow. I love your questions, Marianne. You ask great questions. You always do, right? You always do. Let's talk a little bit about Ken Kostlin. We talked about it yesterday, I know you and me disagreed on this, right? You and me really disagreed on this. You felt that Costin had a pretty good camp, and I didn't, right? For me, I know you said Costin, you felt his defense might have been better,
I
but
thought
this was go ahead.
and the game I really liked him in was at that Columbus game when they first beat him 4-2.
Hmm.
And I will tell you, one of the few players that would chase a puck back if it got out of the zone, back into the offensive zone, let's say the Blue Jackets had the puck and then the Blues knocked it out. He was out of the zone quickly and onto that puck very quickly, which he wasn't that way last year. I'm fine with them moving him because to me, after looking at him and everything, regardless of how he turns out, he in my mind is, and I'm not saying he's going to be Tage Thompson, but he's another guy that just wasn't going to get the minutes under Berube or with the Blues. And
I actually think it comes down more to for me, I think it's a work ethic thing, right? I just don't think he's won at every level he's been at, but this level, right? It almost feels like he came in with this attitude of, oh, I'm great and I'm just going to be great. And I think it was there consistently. But actually, I don't think it does. I think he's going to have a hard time cracking that Edmonton roster, right? I don't think he's going to get to play with McDavid. I don't think he'll get to play with Draisaitl, right? Maybe.
No, he ain't going to get to play with them.
Who's the other guy on there? Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, maybe. Right? Maybe he gets, but right now it's going to be at least 2 weeks before he's even able to make the roster because he doesn't have a Canadian visa. Right?
Yep.
He only has he has the U.S. visa that allows him, the one that allows him to go in and work and leave. Like he doesn't have a permanent visa.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I know a lot about Dmitry Samorukov, and I don't think the Blues are getting anything.
I don't either.
That's why I put on Twitter. It's a wash. Edmonton wanted to move him, and the Blues wanted to move Costin. It's a wash. But then everybody, of course, sees his 6'3" or 6'4" frame. Oh, he's going to be a physical defenseman. I don't think that's his game. I really don't. And he's only like 180, 6'3", 180.
Well, when you think about this, he's only got 2 minutes and 40 seconds.
Yeah,
in the NHL and got benched, and that was against the Blues.
Yeah.
He gave up 2 goals to Kyrou. Kyrou went right by him.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And scored 2 goals on him, and he was done.
Yeah. He was drafted in 2017.
Yeah.
He's 23 years old. It's not like he was drafted this year and he's still got to prove something.
Do you know why I'm okay with and I told you at the end of the season, I thought it was cut bait time for Costin. You know why I'm okay with that? Because of Torpachenko.
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it either way. I mean, I like him, but I'm okay with it.
Well, here's my thing. The first 3 picks of that 17 draft were Thomas, Costin, Torpachenko. Torpachenko's had less time in the NHL than Costin and has already passed him. He's already passed him skill-wise. He's passed him work ethic-wise. He's passed him defensive-wise. I think in some ways he's even up with him offensive-wise. I think he's a big kid, and I think he could be a third line or even a borderline second line guy.
I think that Costin is one of those guys, and it doesn't happen as much as it used to, but I think he's one of those guys that had a problem transitioning from that big rink in Europe, in Russia, to the NHL size rink. Now people say that's nuts, but there are some guys still that have a problem going from the KHL to Russia, and then playing, because even over here in the AHL, he wasn't lighting things on fire last year in the AHL either.
Yeah.
I think he's, like you said, I think he's still going to have a problem breaking that Edmonton lineup, but I don't think they got him, expecting him to be in that lineup. I think they got him kind of as a piece to put in their AHL team, and if they need somebody to come up and play 10, 15 games, he'll be there. Now, I'm not
You're
saying
talking about
Costin,
yeah.
Yeah, and I just think that's the kind of player he is, and I'll be shocked if if Samsonov, if he ever plays for the Blues. And if he does, it's going to be a light role. He's going to have to really, really improve because as a defenseman, and I know everybody says his size is big at 6'3" and 189, he gets pushed around a lot, and we saw Kyrou move around him, and it doesn't take a fast guy to get by him.
So Marianne's hoping Colton I think Colton's healthy. That's what's important. I think Colton's healthy. And then this one's for you, Lance. What are your thoughts about Thomas Greiss?
Well, I think Thomas Greiss looked very good in the preseason and its preseason. Of course, there was that 7-0 loss. But when Thomas Greiss in his career has a good to very good team in front of him, he has a pretty decent year. The times he doesn't is when he has bad defensive teams in front of him. When he was in Detroit, their defense was porous. And that defense for the last 4 or 5 years has made a lot of goalies not look very good. I think if they're going to have to play him 25 games. And I know people say, well, I want Binnington to play 60. I don't. If Jordan Binnington plays 60 games, we're screwed in the playoffs. He's worn out.
No, I'm with you. I think Binnington gets 50 to 55,
Yep.
and Greiss gets the rest. I like Greiss. I think Greiss, and I still say this, I feel Greiss is an upgrade on Husso.
He is, and I watched him in person in that game, and I've watched him other times with New York. I never got to watch him live with Detroit, but he's the kind of guy that doesn't get ruffled. He doesn't get upset if he gives up a goal. He's pretty even keel. And the defense in that game at times let the Blues down in that preseason game that they won 4-2, and he had to make some pretty dang good saves.
Well, actually, no, he didn't give up the 2 goals, right? I think it was Husso or Hoffer that gave up the 2 goals.
Hoffer didn't play in that game.
Well, because Greiss started that game.
It was
Greiss played the first 2 periods.
Greiss gave up 1 goal, I think.
Did he?
Yeah, I'm almost positive.
I don't. I'd have to go back. Well, it's hard to look because that one actually I might be able to look at later. But
it was the Russian guy. I can't pronounce his last name. Number 45.
Zinko? No,
yeah, he did. It was him.
Did he come in? Okay, yeah. Yep. Greiss started the game.
Yep.
And I think they went, and then Zinko. No, was it? I don't think it was Zinko. Was it?
It
Ellis?
wasn't Hoffer. Hoffer didn't
Was it
play
Ellis?
in that game.
It may have been. Got me thinking.
Ellis. Yeah, you're right. Ellis did play in that game.
So it was.
You're right. Yeah. I was thinking of the other game.
Yeah, no. It was Greiss and Ellis, and I think Ellis gave up the 2 goals, and Greiss had pitched the shutout. Because I think we were shutting them out going into the third because we had a really good third. They doubled their shots in the third. Right? I'm almost absolutely certain of that. That was against Columbus, right?
Yeah, Greiss started that game.
Let me see here.
Yeah, because he was. I remember him starting that game. He was number 1.
Yeah. That was the Blackhawks.
It was a 4-2 game.
Yeah, here it is. Game summary. Gotta blow it up a little bit so I can read it.
Yeah, I'm almost positive it was
Okay,
Greiss.
yeah, I'm looking at it. So, yeah, it was Ellis, right? Yeah. And you're right. Greiss gave up a goal on 25 shots.
Yep, he played good.
And, he gave up 2 goals on 25 shots. He gave up 2 goals.
Yeah.
Right? And then Ellis pitched a shutout in the third.
Yeah, and the Blues defense was not great that game. They just weren't.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I mean,
it wasn't bad.
They gave up 35 shots. See, that's for me, if you're looking at, and we're missing a bunch of comments, guys. Sorry. Let me try and get some of these. Does he play like an extra player like Benny? No, he does not.
No.
He does not play the puck. That changes completely.
And I'm going to tell you, it's hard to find a backup that's as good as you're going to have a hard time finding a backup that's as good as Binnington with handling the puck.
Bobby, welcome to the show, Bobby. He says Greiss scares me glove side as one of the worst in the hockey. I don't see that. I don't think it's one of the worst.
I watched him make at least 3 good, and 2 of those were really good glove saves in that game against the Blue Jackets. And the Blue, they had a couple not full breakaways, but a couple good ones, and he made some good saves. Is he Jordan Binnington? No, not at this point in his career. He's not.
Right? Yeah. No. So for me, I Lance kind of to dig at you. He says, well, you can say that about every goalie. If a goalie has a good team in front of them, they will have a good year. Lance, you're the new Madden.
Well, I'm gonna ask you this question. It's the same way with Brodeur. Brodeur wouldn't have been as good of a goalie without that defense that they played in front of him.
Oh, yeah, the neutral zone trap.
Yeah, he'll admit it. He admits it that he would have not have had the career without that team in front of him.
No, yeah, I see that too.
I don't mean you have to have a great team. You have to have a decent team, a good team in front of you. Because a goalie can steal you some games, but he ain't going to steal you 30 wins in a season.
Right? Yeah. No. And see, for me, okay, so let's look at this team from last year. Basically, we've changed 3 pieces, right? 3 legitimate pieces. We changed, we lost,
Perron.
man, I'm having a hard time spitting it out. We actually lost 4 pieces.
Yep.
We lost Perron, right? We lost Tuso.
Mm-hmm.
We lost Joshua, and we lost Costin.
We lost McEachern.
McEachern.
Yeah.
Didn't McEachern spend more time down on the farm than he did up, or was that Costin?
Yeah, but he was up for injuries.
Yeah. So you know the main thing there is the 2 main pieces, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we lost Bozak.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Nobody picked Bozak up. I think Bozak can end up retiring. He hasn't even signed a minor league contract, which surprises me.
Nobody even offered him a PTO, and I thought he might get a PTO.
Oh yeah, that was surprising. Marty played the puck. Remember that rule? Yeah. They used to be able to play the puck
Anywhere.
all the way back. They could play it anywhere.
Yep, anywhere.
Right. So they changed some of that. Bryce is just another Johan. I don't think so, Ryan.
No.
I don't think so. I think
here's the difference between Chad Johnson and Grice. Grice has played for some pretty good teams, and he's proven himself pretty good. Johnson was off and on, and he didn't play a ton of games. I mean, he played a bunch of games in the NHL, but it wasn't like he's an 8-10 year veteran that was always been a good backup or a good starter. Grice at one time was a pretty good 1A, 1B in the Islanders organization.
Oh, yeah. No, and I think what I liked about Grice is his movement was very minimal, right? His movement. So he was like up. Now, where he did scare me was breakaways. I think those 2 goals that they got on him were breakaways, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to call him a stand-up goalie, but he doesn't go down as much as some other goalies do.
Yeah, and I see that, but you know he's much squarer to the shooter, which is great. The Rangers just scored and they're up 2-1. I like the Rangers this year. I really do. Right? I mean, I picked them to go to the finals last year, and I almost got that right. I bet you, outside of New York fans, not a lot of people had the Rangers being in the Western or the Eastern Conference Final.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I know I scored pretty well on that.
Yep.
Right? Let's say Allen stayed as the backup for Bennington beyond 2019. Would this team be very different than today? Oh, that's a good question. That's a good question. I honestly don't know. I mean, Jake has had some really bad teams since he's been up in Montreal, right?
Very bad teams.
And you know, he didn't play that much. I don't think he even played during the playoffs, during that run. I don't think he got a game. He may have gotten 1 or 2, but he did. If he did, he got it like just some cleanup time or something like that. But for the most part, you know, I don't know. I think the one thing that would change is Allen could play the puck. Jake Allen could play the puck. Now, when he first got here, he could not. Elliott was more of the player of the puck. And Elliott taught Allen. And I think Allen helped Bennington with that, because Bennington could play the puck, but he got much better with it. Right? I think he got much better with it as the season went and as the year went along. And especially in the playoffs, he seemed to, that really did help out the Blues. And with that being said, maybe Bennington does that with Bryce and with Hoffer, because Hoffer was not playing the puck very well at all. Hoffer looked just overmatched at every step of the way this preseason.
It's like I told you, when you get into the NHL and they expect you to play the puck, they don't, some teams, guys are good at it, some are great. You've got to be at least decent at it. And when you're a young goalie like that, it's always been stressed throughout the years you play, midget, juniors, whatever, college. But it doesn't come to be, it's important, but it's really important in the NHL. And, he's going to learn. He'll learn it. And you get confident, because like you said, Bennington was good at it, but he wasn't as good as he is it now. And to me, it's when you come out of that net, you got to be confident. If you look at that puck and you don't know what you're going to do with it, you're screwed. You've got to know what you're going to. When you come out of the net, you assess the ice, what's going on in front of you, and you figure out what you're going to do with the puck.
Sam says, if Colt 55 is another year like last year, do you see the Blues testing the trade market? Actually, I don't. Nope. Bobby says, yeah, Colt 55 is pretty much is what he is. I don't believe that completely. Matt Lowe says, Colt 55 signed for like 8 years. Did you hear him on the Cam and Strick podcast? No, I have not.
No, haven't heard it.
Right? I have not, I'll be honest. And then he says Parayko would have to be very bad. And see, he still had a decent year last year. He was still a plus 16, 17?
The problem is, Guy, they see his big frame, and they can't get the face and the body and the mental attitude of Chris Pronger out of their minds. He's never, ever going to be Chris Pronger. I could have told you that when he was drafted.
He's closer. He's closer to a McGinnis than he is a Pronger.
He's a taller version, and I'm not going to say he's as good offensively as McGinnis, but you're correct. That is more of his style, a McGinnis type of style.
Yeah, but he's got that slap shot, and they talk about not having the one time on the power play. Why not put Parayko on the power play and let him fire that one timer? Right? I don't see why you don't take that chance. He can play. He's not as fleet-footed as Falk or Krug is, and I get that. And if you put him on the power play, you're going to put him out there a lot more minutes, because he also plays the penalty kill. But why not give him some shots? If the power play's not clicking, let's say the power play it hasn't clicking for some games, I'd put him in and let him fire that shot, give a different look.
I think pretty much the Blues know that he's just not confident in it, and he's always going to look for that pass. And whether he gets better at that, I don't know. He's been in the league for years now. And you would think, after it being pounded in his head, because every time they talk to Berube and ask a question about, Parayko's got a great shot, wouldn't you like him to shoot it more?
Oh, absolutely.
Berube says, yes, we keep telling him to shoot it more. Well, you can only tell a guy so often, so much, and eventually you're going to know that, hey, he's just not going to shoot it like we want him to shoot it.
This is a great point. I think this town gets fixated on certain guys being their whipping boy throughout the season, no matter how they play, if they make a mistake. Oh, yeah, you know what?
That's true.
Who was that? He's on Nashville now. We traded him to Ottawa, and they traded him to Winnipeg, and then
Sanford,
right?
Yep.
Sanford was like that.
Yep.
Right? Though Sanford, I think, deserved a lot of it.
The problem with Sanford is when he messed up, and you and I talked about it years ago, it wasn't a small flub up. It was a big time mess up.
They ended up in the back of the net constantly. Yep. Wow, we're getting some good comments tonight, guys. We got 15 people watching,
and
so this is
Marianne,
great.
you're right. Parayko was not healthy last year.
Yeah. We want Parayko to slap that thing. Lance, who else would you add to the Blues Hall of Fame besides the initial 9? Well, it was 10. Right? And I know in that there was one thing that didn't have McGinnis on it, but McGinnis is in because he's in the all the retired numbers and then the owner. So the 9 retired numbers and then the owner. Who would you put in? I think the last day it's coming up, or it might have been today. Yeah, I think today was the last day.
I don't know, because there are guys that were just good players, but they meant so much for the team for 6, 7, 8 years. To me, that's a tough choice. I think they did well on the first 10. I think they did a really good job. There's nobody on there I can say, oh, hell no, they don't belong there. I can't say that about any of them.
Yeah.
Because you've got to look at it this way. You don't look at them as, well, they weren't a top player in the league. That's not what the Hall of Fame is about.
There's one you could make a case for that does not belong in the Blues Hall of Fame.
Who's that?
And I know this is going to sound really, really bad, but you could make a case for Gessoff.
I would say if there's going to be a player there, yeah, you could make that case. But I'm just saying that I understand why they put him on there.
I understand why he's there.
Yeah.
I understand why. But if you were going to make a case, that would be the case.
Yeah.
Right?
And I don't think Dimitra will never be on it.
Oh, Dimitra will end up being there.
I don't think
he won't get. He'll get his number honored, not retired.
Yeah, I just don't know, because he was
but
here.
I could see Dimitra being in the Hall of Fame. I could see Unger. To me, Unger's the one that needs to be there.
Unger's got to eventually be there.
No, Unger's got to be in that first class to me.
Yeah.
Right.
And the thing about Dimitra, he didn't leave this team on good standings. There was a lot of hateful stuff between the two because of the amount of money he wanted, and the Blues wouldn't give it to him.
Well, it wasn't just the money. It was, I remember, this was what I remember about Dimitra more than anything else. This is Pareko. He talks about shooting in his game and how people talk about it. Said he wanted to be more on the power, but mostly you get what just a great guy is. I'll have to go look for it. I'll have to go look for it there, bud.
Yeah.
Sam says,
I don't know of anybody that's ever met Colton Pareko or know of him that can say, man, he's a jerk. I don't know of anybody that can say that about him. He's always nice to fans. He's nice to the media. And that's just his personality. And if you were, people comparing him to Pronger, if you remember Pronger's interviews, stone cold face, didn't joke around a lot, was very, very straight to the point. And that's just not Colton.
Yeah, Ryan Green said, would you say Tarasenko is still the face of the franchise, or is that in the past? For me, he is. For me, and then
you want my honest opinion? My honest opinion on all that stuff? I like Ryan O'Reilly as the captain, but I think it changes the way he plays. He feels like he's got to make an example all the time for young players and other players. And people are going to hate me for this. I would have no problem if they gave him an A and gave the C to Tarasenko or Justin Falk. Those are the only two guys I would give the C to besides O'Reilly.
Who was it again? I got sidetracked. Say your two
Falk
guys again.
Justin Falk and Tarasenko are the only two I'd give the captaincy to.
I'd add
O'Reilly.
one more to that. And I don't know if you read the article or not, but I could put Shin on that.
Nah.
Right? Well, for the locker room, because the guys in the locker room absolutely love him to death. Right? And that's and then the way he goes out there and he fights, he's the guy that sticks up. What do you think, Wes? Hey, welcome back, Wes. What do you think about the Blues being 16th in the current Vegas Cup? I guess what do you call it? The odds, right? Mm-hmm. I'll let Lance go with that one first.
I would put them somewhere between 7 and 9 is where I would have them. There's several teams on there that don't deserve it, and one of the teams is the team you just mentioned, Vegas. Some people are picking them as high as 4th odds makers. Yeah. And Guy and I don't see it, and I think most fans don't see it.
Yeah, no, I think Vegas is going to have a hard time.
Yeah. Wouldn't you agree though, somewhere between 7 and 9?
Actually, I could see them being higher. I really do. I think that there was something on the Athletic, and it was the Athletic had the Blues at about 93 points.
Yeah.
And they were saying that, their logarithm or their whatever it was.
Their algorithms.
Yeah. And then they said, but the Blues keep, but
surprising.
Every year the Blues outplay that.
Yeah. Well, what does that tell you?
One of the guys from Let's Go Blues Radio, Kurt, said, well, if the Blues are constantly outplaying your logarithm.
What does that tell you?
Then maybe your logarithm is wrong.
Yeah, change your algorithm and how you come up with it.
They kept outplaying the matrix. Yeah. Well, then maybe your matrix is wrong. And that's how I feel. I think that the
me
Matrix
too.
is overall wrong. Now, the one that I do trust more than any else is Money Puck. Right? In 19, Money Puck was actually when we're high on the Blues most of the season.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, Guy, if you remember, as the season went on, even after that 11-game winning streak was broken and they played good but not great, Money Puck kept raising them and raising them and raising them. Yeah, that whole time. I'm not a big Money Puck guy, but that season they had the Bruins going up too at the end of the season. So they did really well at the end of that season on their predictions.
Someone says that I'm saying that Hoffman should be the Blues captain. I think I know who this is. I almost blocked them, but I had to think about it because I've had that trouble with on YouTube with the
I was
troll.
there. At
first I thought maybe it was a troll, and I held back. Oh, we got
Michael
Dante. You wouldn't trust Bortuzzo with the C, and right? They have Toronto second. That tells you a lot.
Yeah, that's
right?
Guy, for the last 3 years. For the last 3 years, they've picked Toronto and then the top 2 to 3 teams. And I love their offense. I love their players. I really do. But they only have one real good defensive pairing line. They got their second is good, and their third and fourth, to me, just aren't good enough. And they're going to have, they thought they had issues in goal last year. I think they're going to have worse issues this year.
Yeah, no. For me right now, I think that everybody's putting so much. This is my issue, and I watched the top 50 right now, and all of those, and all the goalies, the top 10 goalies, and all this, and everybody put so much weight on last season.
Yep.
I mean, I'm talking a lot of weight.
A lot.
And last season could have become an anomaly.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You have to look at last season. Scoring was way up. Way up. Right? Husso's numbers, you look at what he did the year before in the last season, that's a huge uptick.
Mm-hmm.
Kadri doubled his thing. And that, I think that they're putting way too much stock in the last season. And then with the Blues, they're putting so much stock in Perron leaving.
And
but it doesn't seem like they're putting that same stock in every other team that lost so many other guys.
Yep. It's like you and I brought out last night. Greg, I can't think how to say his last name now, but Wychinski or whatever he is on Twitter, he says the Blues aren't going to make the playoffs, but yet he's putting Colorado as the best. And I'm thinking to myself, if you're going to beat up the Blues for losing Perron, Colorado lost 3 to 5 quality players and 2 other players.
Yeah.
Colorado's going to have issues.
Right? No, and you know what? Okay, Colorado didn't lose a lot of core, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'll tell you what. You know what well, first of all, if you want to see what a team is when it goes from one season to the next and stays the same, look at the 18, 19, 20 Blues.
Yeah.
Right? You look at those two teams.
They're the same team.
Well, they were basically the same team.
Yeah.
They barely made the playoffs. Well, I didn't say barely. They get third. They were a point out of first, right?
Yeah.
But they came back. They were the best team in the league prior to the bubble.
Yeah, they were. Yeah,
okay?
Definitely.
They're our best team in the West. They were second in the league.
Definitely.
So when and they basically lost 2 guys. They lost Edmonton and somebody else, and then Bortuzzo left. Or Maroon. Mm-hmm. They lost Edmonton and Maroon.
Yeah.
And then Bortuzzo left. Or not Bortuzzo. Bouwmeester.
Yeah, Bouwmeester retired,
the heart attack, right? Mm-hmm. And had to retire. But other than that, I mean, that team was the same team.
Yeah.
This team is basically the same team. Mm-hmm. You really didn't lose much, and I still think Greiss is equal to or better than Husso. Maybe I'm wrong, but I see that. So, Guy, here's one for you. One is your personal feeling, and the other is who do you think the Blues chase if it comes down to Who do the Blues keep, 90 or 91? Oh, wow. Okay. Personally, I want him to keep Tarasenko, right? And the reason I say that, and it's not just because I have 90 Tarasenko jerseys, right?
You sure it's not 91?
Yeah. Okay, Lance, I'll see you when you come back.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
Okay, no problem. The thing here for me is goal scorers always score goals. They're always going to score goals. And as they get older, they still score goals. That doesn't leave. Other things leave, but the ability to score goals doesn't. And that's what I think that Tarasenko brings, is that ability to score goals. Now, the difference here, when you ask who the Blues should keep, 90 or 91, it's a tough question, but I'll tell you what, depending on, Bobby says we need a trade or a deadline for a draft pick. I don't think so, right? I'm not with that yet. But for me, you have to look at, if you're Doug Armstrong and this team is not first place, taking the lead, you have to look at the possibility of trading Ryan O'Reilly. Right? Ryan O'Reilly does not have a no-trade clause. He's in the last year of his deal.
And real quick.
Good deal. It's a good deal.
Mm-hmm.
He's worth it. But you gave up five players for O'Reilly. Riley should get you 3 to 4. Right? And if you don't think that you can re-sign him, have him trade and then come back, or you can't sign him prior to the season, I say you unless you're, in first, fighting for first, I say you take that chance and go after a name. Right? Barbie, and you know what? That's a chance. Barbie could be traded. I think see
so.
that.
Yeah, I agree. And,
I could absolutely see that.
And like I said, it's easier to trade O'Reilly than it is Tarasenko. People say, well, Tarasenko's already given him the list. That list he gave him a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, it's a different list.
I don't think there's a list.
I don't think there's a list either, but that's what people are going to say. And
I think what would happen if it came down to it, right? If it came down to it, they would. Here's what I think is going to happen. Come January, they're going to find out from Tarasenko's agent what he thinks, what it would take to keep him on the Blues, right? I mean, if I'm Doug Armstrong, this is what I do. I go to Tarasenko's agent starting in January, right?
Well, guy, here's one thing to tell you. They've already talked to O'Reilly's agent. They haven't talked to Tarasenko's agent. What does that tell you?
I understand that, but well, we don't know that. Right now, they're saying the cap may only go up $1 million.
I heard 800,000.
It's 2 years down the road that the cap's going to take that big jump.
About 3 or 4 million.
But with everybody playing to full arenas this season, it could. The CBA has it going up $1 million. It had it going up $1 million for 3 years, just $1 million. However, the NHL was allowed to take it more than that if they thought that they could. Mm-hmm. So there is that. There may have been talks with OR. I don't know. I haven't heard. I'm kind of out of the loop now.
Doug Armstrong's already said it. There have been talks.
Okay. No, we need to be sellers at the deadline. We can't get rentals. We need to plan for the future, as we are going to lose some key pieces. I disagree with that, Bobby. I disagree with that. I don't think this is a rebuild. I think this is a reload or a retool. And the key pieces really, in all actuality, you might be able to keep them both. Or you keep one and you have other places to come up. There's Thomas could be. Well, Thomas is not going to be. I'll tell you what. If you want to know who's easier to replace, who could you replace the easiest between O'Reilly and Tarasenko? I think you can replace O'Reilly easier because I think Thomas is already doing that. I think Thomas is already establishing himself as a number one center, as a 200-foot player, has a playmaker. I think he's doing that. Who's replacing Tarasenko? Who's getting you those 35 goals? Who's getting you those 35 goals? And that's the thing right now. If unless you're going to bring in a goal scorer, you got to sign Tarasenko. Right? That's what I think. What I was referring to was 2 years from now. Okay. Got that, Sam. Army and OR are getting coffee together? Maybe. Why are you saying that to be sellers? And see, yeah, I'm not with being sellers. I see, that's the thing. I'm not buying into the narrative. Oh, Kachuk's not coming here. That ain't happening. No, it's a retool we need to use this year to grow and build for the future. We have Robert and Kyrou and need to get draft picks to build our system. I disagree with that. I don't think our system's as bad off as everyone says it is. Right? Now, Jeff's going to agree to disagree. I'm thinking he's disagreeing with me. Kyrou could be a 30 to 35 goal scorer. He could. But he's got to get out of his head. He's got to get out of his head, because he got a big head after the All-Star game. And his game went south after the All-Star game. It got better after that, later in the season, but it's got to be that. It's got to be he's got to have a strong game. He's playing on that number one line. He's got to have, by January, by the end of December, he's got to have 15 plus goals. Right? I think he's got to have 15 plus goals. I don't think our cap is that bad for the next 2 years. I really don't. I don't think our cap is as bad as you're looking at it. They did sign Tarasenko and O'Reilly are not getting $7+ million elsewhere. Tarasenko could.
Tarasenko will. Could. He will.
Well, it depends on the season. If he has a 40-goal season, yeah.
If he has a 30-goal season, he'll get more.
But O'Reilly's not getting 7.5 elsewhere. Right? O'Reilly's not getting that 7.5 elsewhere. I just don't see it. Right? Jessica Lee Ball, Charles Jenkins, Sonia, Travis Parting, Jeff Horseman, Marianne Holmes, Nate Vaspon, Brandon Wright, and there's a few others that I can't see. Thank you so much. Got 12 of them, man. 12 likes. I appreciate it. 15 people watching, and we're an hour and 4 minutes into an hour show. And we might go an hour and a half. It's a good show tonight. It's a good talk, and this is what we'll be talking about until Saturday. Until 6 p.m. Saturday. Right? Dale says I'm too old to worry about next year. Let's go Blues. I'm with you. We have a lot of our core still, especially with the Neighbours coming up, and Kyrou and Thomas. Defense is set. Blues always lose player and never do a complete rebuild. You're trolling. Okay. I don't think it's trolling. I see there is a narrative out there. There is a narrative. And, that's the thing. Unfortunately, Blues hockey media is in the most part a negative hockey show. No, I am not going to do play-by-play. I am not doing play-by-play. I suck at play-by-play. But this show is going to keep running. No, I'm with you. I'm with you. I think you're right, Matt. I do think you're right. And I think, like this season was a retool.
Here's the thing. Years ago, guys got their max contracts between 27, 28 years old is when they got their big contracts. Nowadays, teams are being smarter. They're getting these guys that start to really live up to their potential, and they're signing them quickly. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if Thomas and Kyrie play their contracts out and they have good years, they're going to cost the Blues a lot more money, and somebody's going to want them too. So the Blues were very smart at tying both of those guys down.
I think they were too. 91 gets 45. I could see that. I really could. No, I missed watching my show. I appreciate that. He said, "Tell me I'm wrong" with his comment, and I don't. I don't think he's wrong.
Mm-mm.
Right? Why are we playing so late? I don't know. This is the second year in a row they've done that to the Blues. Last season they started 5 days in.
Mm-hmm.
They started on a Saturday. They were one of the last teams to start, so I don't see that. I can see Glavity getting 40 plus. I really do feel that. I have a feeling Kyrou is going to have a down year, but I think the pressure. I think the pressure gets to him. I don't know about that. I think you might be onto something, but also I think that a lot of these guys were working out most of the summer, right? Brown, I think. Well, we'll talk about this tomorrow. We'll talk about guys that we think will be our surprise guys that we think could decline, guys who we think are going to go up, and what we think that each line, what we feel each line will. I think the Blues have one of the deepest teams in the league. I really do. They're not a 2-line team. They're a 3-line, 3.5-line team, right? I think Akari's going to really help the Blues out. Take it easy, Sam. Columbus is going to be a big test as far as the season opener. I don't think so, because Columbus, that will be their third game of the season, and they're playing on back-to-back nights, right? I just think that the Blues need to come out, and the Rangers end up beating the Tampa Bay 3-1, so they get their 2 points, and Tampa takes their first loss of the year. The next game coming up is Vegas at the Kings. That should be a fun one.
I'm going to be watching that one.
I think the Kings are going to walk away with that one. I really do, because the Knights have no goaltending, none. Right? For me, I think that the media in St. Louis, they're pro player, right? And they get on a player and they stay on him, right? I think that you can really, they took this, oh my God, Perron lost, the power play is going to suck, and everybody else, we need to know. Yeah, I do, bud. I wish I could. Right? I wish I could. I wish hey, is what it is, right? Hey, Bill, thank you, man. I appreciate that. We try and make it fun.
Thank you.
I wish I lived in St. Louis. I wish I did live in St. Louis and we could do this live every night, and I could go different bars and do it live and get you guys out for different shows. I do it left, right, and center.
Yeah. The only way I travel is if somebody else pays for it, because I sure as heck don't have the money to travel.
Yeah, absolutely. But the thing is, so this season, and I'm going to talk about this again since I got so many people, the show is going to change. Last season, I did 4 shows for every game. Not going to do that this year. One show. It will start a half hour to an hour prior to the game, and then stay running. During game time, I will back out. The host will back out, but the chat will stay. You guys can put things in the chat.
Good idea.
You guys can put things in the chat, and that gives us, we know exactly what you want to talk about as the intermission comes, so we're focused on you during the intermission.
Plus, it also helps out. Yeah, it also helps out Guy and I, because there's a lot of times we think about stuff we want to talk about in the intermission, and then by the time the intermission comes, we've forgotten 2 of the 5 things we wanted to talk about.
Yeah. So this helps, and the intermission is only 18 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's short, and you've got to get a lot out there. So what I'm looking at is you guys pushing the intermissions and the post game, right? Right? Well, Jeff, you're welcome to do that. Now, I may or may not show your comments. I don't mind. Look, if you guys want to use the language, that's fine. I will do my best to do it. I try and keep the show semi-professional. I've been known to drop an F-bomb here and there, as you guys know. The Scandella one. But that's fine. But what we're going to do is we're going to let you guys drive this show. And by keeping this live, keeping it going, you'll see, it'll be up and there'll be some music playing lightly in the background. But you guys will be able to make chats, say what you think, and we can go from there. So you know what? A lot of you guys, now here's something that you guys can do. A lot of you have told me, oh, this player did this on this player did that on that play. Well, I didn't see it or I don't remember it. Well, now when you see that, you can put it right away. So I have a chance to say, oh, okay, now I remember what you're talking about. Right? You guys can help drive what this is. Right? You guys can really push this along. And I'm pretty sure that this is Jeff Green. This is an optional PG-13. PG-13. We'll call it that. PG-13. Right? I think in PG-13 you can say the F-bomb once, and there's a few other words that you can. There's a limit. I was watching a show. There's a show on Netflix about the history of curse words.
Yeah.
Right, and it's actually really good. And they talk about how the rating system was set up, and what you could have with each word. They talk about that. It's really, really interesting. Immunity. You guys realistically think that the Blues are a cup threat this season? I do, under one condition: if they're healthy. No, I do think that they're a legitimate cup threat. Right? I really do. I really think that they're a cup threat, and I think that Bill says I bought Scandella's gloves and played better ever since. Bill's one of my warrior buddies. Right? Bill's one of my warriors. Look, guys, I'm really going to do the best I can this season, but I want you guys to help. I want you to drive the show. Because I think if you guys drive the show, it's going to give other people an idea of what this show really is, and help the show drive along, help the show move along. Right? I'm going to try and get guests. I'm not going to push on guests as much as I've done in the past. I'm going to kind of back off on that a little bit because you know what? It messed me up a lot. Ashley is right now, she's going to try and be for most pre-games and intermissions, but not post-games. Unless it's an afternoon game that she can get to. Right? An earlier game. And like the West Coast game, she will not be on. I know she will not be on for the West Coast games. Right? Until probably about December. So that's what I'm kind of thinking there. Right? But she's going to do her best, and Lance will come on when he can. I think he's been feeling a lot better.
Yeah.
Right? And this show, this right here, for me personally, I live 2,500 miles, 2,400 and something miles from the center of Blues hockey. I am literally on an island when it comes to that. When I was in the military, there were not a lot of hockey fans and there weren't a lot of Blues fans around. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have that connection to the fans of the Blues. Now, luckily, Facebook came along and gave me some opportunity and some other things, but this show has been my best connection to Blues fans. I have people that are friends of mine through this show. Mm-hmm. Lance is one of them, right? Yeah. Lance encouraged me to do this.
Actually, I became your friend when you went on the other podcast, and you and I agreed, and everybody else.
Yeah.
So.
Me and Lance were on another podcast, and we started talking. I told Lance that I was thinking about. Well, I started doing the pregame rant, and I told Lance about it. And I think about my fifth or sixth one in, the one where I first did the video, or did a preset video that I chopped up in that. Mm-hmm. Lance was like, "Guy, I think you should do this." right? Don't worry about anybody else. Do this. I think you got something going here. So, it's so crazy to think that I've been watching since that guy with the glasses was on every night. I forgot his name.
Rob?
Rob? Yeah. That was 2 years ago. Might have been Rob,
ago.
yeah.
Yep, 2 years ago.
Rob decided he didn't want to do this anymore. Rob decided he wanted to do something else. And that's fine.
Yeah.
Right?
Everybody's got to be happy in what they do. I mean, no big deal.
Yeah, Rob can do, that's fine, but Ashley stepped in, and Ashley, I think, is a perfect compliment to me. One of Rob's complaints was that I talk over people. Well, here's the problem.
We all do.
But it's not just that. There's two issues here that I don't think people realize. Mm-hmm. One, I'm partially deaf. Okay? I have to have the volume up very loud, and there are certain words that I have a very, very difficult time hearing and understanding. And the second thing is, a lot of times when I'm doing that, is I think the person has stopped talking.
Yeah, me too.
You have to realize there's a 15-second delay between me and you. And then even when I have somebody live, I notice delays at times.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Lowe goes, guys talk over people.
Yeah, we do.
No, I'm still here. I never went off the air, bud.
No. Mm-mm.
No, I've been here the whole time. I have not gone off the air. Like I said, so we're going to try this season. I think it's going to be better. I think it's going to give you guys that opportunity to drive the show. I think it's going to work on things. Yep, Lance was asking a word earlier, and you just kept rambling on.
Well, if you notice, I did the same thing to Guy 2 or 3 times too.
Yeah, so it's my show, and I'll cry if I want to. Right? And that was the other thing that I kind of it is my show. Right? I started this, and it wasn't originally a live show, and it became live. Right? It became live because it was easier than doing, and originally it was just a pregame show, but then the intermission started in that. Mm-hmm. But really, this is my show, and this is what I do, and I have to run the show. Mm-hmm. And then there's times when somebody's talking, they say something that you don't want. They make a point that you need to emphasize. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you have to stop them to get at that because they really did hit on something. Right? And it is a difficult thing to do. And, if I talk over you, I talk over you. I'm sorry. That's just, it's who I am. Right? It's just who I am. So, that's just the way it goes. But, Lance and me have talked over each other. I know that. I've talked over Ashley. Right? I get it. Rob, I'm sorry. No, I apologize to you. I don't mean to talk over you, but that it is what it is. And wow, we're an hour and 20 minutes in, and we got 16 people watching. That is great. 7 on YouTube, 7 on was 7 on my page. 2 just dropped away, and then 2 on the BlueNote Fan Report. Nobody on the STL Hawaii Blues Fan Clan. That's the one, when they use the clan one, is where their name doesn't show up because they need to click on the StreamYard one. Yeah. I thought about not putting it directly in the clan and sharing it, but when I do that, they don't get a notice that I posted that we're going live in there, right? So I'm trying to work it the best way, right? I'm trying to do it the best way. I love all you guys, I really do. Matt Lowe says Lance doesn't take your shit. Right? No, well, Lance got mad at me the other day, or 2 weeks ago.
About 2 weeks and a half, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, Lance, I don't know if a lot of you guys we were talking about, who was it? Somebody, the guy that just retired, the defenseman that just retired, that has the record for most games played in the league.
Oh, I can see his face.
Yeah, I can't think of his name.
Dang it.
And
We were talking about if that means he should be in the Hall of Fame. We were
Hall of
talking about the
Fame,
Hall
right?
of Fame. Yeah.
And I was like, well, I felt longevity matters, and Lance didn't. And we got into and basically I didn't realize that Lance was getting heated, because as he was getting heated, I didn't have my screen on. Keith Yandel.
Yeah, Yandel. Yeah.
Yandel, right? I didn't have my screen on. I was looking at stats, right?
Yeah.
So the way I do the show, right, I have a tab that has you guys on it. That's what I'm looking at right now. Sometimes I can put things on my laptop here and see them. But for me, really, to be able to see things, to read things, I have a 24-inch TV, I think, a big enough TV here directly across from me. So I change tabs, right? So by changing the tabs, I get to see what's going on, and that's how I do the what do you call it? The stats and things like that. So I didn't see Lance getting upset, and then he got to the point where he just said, "I'm going to go." Well, I apologize to Lance.
And I apologize to God. The reason is I wasn't done with my radiation yet, and I was having some intestinal pain from it, and I knew I needed to get off, because I didn't mean to be so angry with what I was saying, and I just figured I'd just get off. No big deal.
Yeah, no, and I'd appreciated what Lance did, and then, if you're going to get upset, that's fine. Right? That's fine. It's the Scandella thing, man. I was upset when I went off on Scandella. I was pissed. I really was. And I wasn't going off on Scandella, right? I was actually going off on the people talking about Scandella.
People that hate him.
I still like Scandella's game. Scandella is a great penalty killer.
And he's another guy that was hurt last year.
Right? Yeah, he was hurt. Matt Lowe says, if Bo Meester doesn't have the Triple Crown, would he be in the Hall of Fame? And you know what? I don't know. He's not a 1,000-point player, is he?
No.
Yeah.
No.
The Triple Crown helps, and that's the thing that I think people don't realize. It's not, and this is my thing. It's not the NHL Hall of Fame. Okay. It's so the Baseball Hall of Fame is actually the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame at Cooperstown. The Basketball Hall of Fame is the Basketball Hall of Fame. The Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame.
Yep.
They put in anybody that plays basketball. Players, they have women in.
Coaches, owners.
Pro football is another one. The Pro Football Hall of Fame is just for American football. It does not count Canadian Football League.
Nope.
What you do in the Canadian Football League does not count. What you did, in other area doesn't count. The NHL does not have its own Hall of Fame. It has the Hockey Hall of Fame. And because it has the Hockey Hall of Fame, what you do in the World Championships, what you do in the Olympics, counts along with what you do in the NHL or what you do in whatever league you play in. To be honest with you, if the NHL, not the NHL, the Hockey Hall of Fame wanted to look at some players from Europe, or who's the Russian goalie? Tretiak.
Yeah.
Right? I could see them putting Tretiak in the Hall of Fame if he's not already in.
I think he's in. I might be wrong.
I think he is in, right?
I thought they put him in years ago.
Yeah. So that's where it goes. And Bill, I've talked to Bill. Bill's 64 and he says, I need all the help I can get. Bill, I appreciate everybody's, I really do appreciate your opinions. Your opinions are just as important, if not more important, than mine and the co-host. And I say co-host because sometimes I have Lance, sometimes I have Ashley, sometimes I have other people. So all your opinions are just as important. If I don't agree, I don't agree. But you have the right to it, right? He played a lot of games like Yandel, is what I'm saying. Without the accolades, I don't know if he makes it. And he may not make it. Matlow. He may not. But for me, all that other stuff matters, and longevity matters. I think if he doesn't have his heart issue, he might still be on the Blues.
I think he could have played at least 2 more years.
Yeah, I think he would have played. I think he might have still been on the Blues. I really do. I'm pretty certain that he would still be a member of the Blues.
I think so too.
All right. At least that's how I feel about it. Wow. Well, we did an hour and a half, just short of an hour and a half today, Lance. A good show, good solid show.
Very good.
We kept people all the way through it, and great. I appreciate it. I want you guys remember. So this is the schedule, and I might start scheduling them a week in advance because now it's events, right? So on Facebook it shows up as an event, and I'm working on trying to get a list of people that want me to notify them of the events, and I can an hour before send out a notification or an invite to the event, right? I'll start getting a list of people that want me to do that, and I think you can make an event list. I think there's a way to do that, right? If there is a way to do that, that's what I'm going to do. Create an event list so I can just get you guys hit up, and that way I don't have to post it in all the groups and things like that, and you know exactly where to find it. So Monday through Saturday, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, unless there is a game. Then we will be between an hour and a half hour pregame show. Now, an hour show will depend on the opponent. The Blackhawks will always be an hour show. The Avalanche will be an hour show. Things like that. If there's a special event going on or something like that, it'll be an hour show. Otherwise, it'll be a half-hour show. Sometimes it might be a 45-minute. If I've got nothing to do, I might just come on. Right? So that's the way. So you're always going to know when the show is. Right? 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. The majority of you guys are in St. Louis. I think that works best for you. And this is, and not only that, that's when hockey's going on. So we can talk about what's happening in the league, right? I actually thought about doing a late night, like after the last game, doing a late night recap show. But I'd probably be the only one on.
Probably.
Right? Start a new channel, call it the Hockey Fan Report, but I'd be the only one on.
Just call it Hockey After Midnight with Guy Benson.
Right? The hockey wrap-up show.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And do that and go through all the games. I may do that. I haven't decided yet. That might open me up a new audience or a better audience, or get more people to go how I feel and what I say. Can't show highlights though, so that's the only thing that kind of takes it away. I probably would show highlights until I got to the 1,000 mark. Because at that point, then, I'd have to stop showing highlights.
Yep.
But, hey, this is what I'm thinking of doing. I don't know if it's going to work. We don't know. Hockey guy with hair. Ring the bell. I got to get a bell on my soundboard. Right? I got to get a bell on my soundboard. I haven't put one on. Cool. I haven't done ring the bell for a long time. Right? You remember with YouTube, I used to say, don't forget to like the show and ring the bell to get notifications.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Unfortunately, I lost that hard drive that had all that stuff on it. I'm so upset with myself on that. When I lose it, it stopped working on me. So I lost, and I tried to get it back, and they told me that they'd have to take it. It cost $3,000 to get it fixed.
Oh my goodness.
Right? They'd have to take it to a clean room and take it apart and pull the data off bit by bit.
Oh my goodness.
They had to physically take the drive apart to get it to it. So Pepperidge Farm remembers. Right? What is the one in St. Louis? St. Louis has one. It's not Pepperidge. It's It starts with a P though.
Yeah, I know what you mean. What the heck is it?
Peevely? Peevely Farms? I think that's it.
Peevely or Prairie Farms?
Prairie Farms. So either Peevely Farms or Prairie Farms. Yeah, one of them was a St. Louis. I remember from St. Louis. I used to get it mixed up with Pepperidge Farm, but yeah, one of them. Right? Wow, what a great show tonight, man.
Good
What a
show.
great show. Oh, I still have, that's a, right, there we go. So, hey, guys, you know what? Have a great night, right? Lance, thanks for showing up tonight. Great show tonight. We had a lot of fun. The season started. We're going to get more people now. And,
Yep.
let's see what happens. Let's see how the season goes. I still think the Blues are going to have a good one. Tomorrow at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, we're going to talk about we're going to go down each player and we're going to go, what our expectation is of that player. And then we'll hit some of the guys in the minor leagues. What do you think about doing that, Lance?
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, we'll do a player preview. Right? We'll do a player preview. We'll go through the players. We'll do it by I think we'll do it. I don't know if we're going to do it by lines or how I'm going to do it. I think I may just bounce around, but we'll figure it out. But we'll cover everybody because I think, right off the bat, I'll tell you right now, I think my player to have just an amazing year is Logan Brown. If his shoulder is really not that bad and he doesn't aggravate it again, I think Brown is just going to finally get it.
I certainly hope so, because it would be just an added bonus if he did.
Absolutely. Okay, guys, this is Guy the Y Blues fan and Lance the Scott from the Drop saying aloha, mahalo, and I can't wait to see you all on the next BlueNote Fan Report. Aloha. I can't find the right thing. Here we go. We'll do this first.
To all you Blues fans, we're bleeding blue with you. Let's go, Blues! Let's